everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 116. As always, I am one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by Jesse Cox, Alex Fasciane,
Hi,
and special guest, we'll call you Nick for right now, twitch.tv/addiction, whatever you want to call it, but you're also in California, so it's you're like the Uwe Bolls of California.
What is that?
Why would you call me that?
He's from
slur.
another country. I don't know.
He's also an asshole.
Is that how you say his name? Uwe Boll?
Uwe Boll. I said Uwe Boll.
Not Uwe Boll.
Is it because I have the postal, like the RWS thing in the background?
I just know you're a big movie guy, and I just wanted to really throw you.
I love shitty video game adaptations that are made for a German tax fund.
You want to throw out the Masters of Form, see if we even notice.
Welcome to the show, Nick. We appreciate having you here. It's good to have you. But before I unfortunately can't let you talk yet, because before we do anything, Alex usually has something super important.
Oh my God, everyone be quiet.
Yeah, yes. I do have something important to talk about.
This is super important. Shut up, everyone.
That's a podcast. The people who work on this podcast.
Everyone should shut up right now.
Yeah, don't talk about it. There's a podcast out there.
Now be quiet.
Keep it down, guys. There's a podcast out there that...
shut up. He has something important to say now.
It's time to get serious. The podcast that I'm talking about, these guys work so hard to bring this content to you. It's a fairly thankless job. The algorithm is brutal. Who
are these heroes? What do you? Wow.
I don't know. It's rare that they even talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, they don't really like to talk about who they are, where you can go to support them on Patreon. But I heard that if you go down to patreon.com/Chilluminati and you join the Chilluminati yourself through monetary support, that not only are you part of one of the coolest clubs in the history of humanity, but also, you're letting three starving guys, make it one more day, one more meal for us.
Starving?
One more day where we don't have to think about where's that Postmates order going to come from? How are we going to afford that $45 Taco Bell order? You know what I mean?
It speaks to a true point in my life that I'd rather not go back to.
Yeah, you don't want to think about that. You don't want to think about that time you spent $70 on the Cheesecake Factory. Yeah, don't worry about it. Patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod. And not only do you get all that just mental reward, but you also get all kinds of real tangible things like access to different colors on your profile on Discord, and
like how you lead with that
and preset. That's the best thing. And then after this show, when you're done listening to it and you're like, I wish I could hear a little bit more Chilluminati, guess what? There is a little bit more. If you head over to patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, there's 4,000 hours of bonus footage if you listen to it enough, right?
Not a guarantee. I can't guarantee.
If you put it on repeat, it's like
if you keep listening to it, I bet you could get to 4K.
Yeah,
pretty quick. So patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod.
Mathis, do me a favor. When you have time, someone out there, who are the longest running patrons?
I can definitely find that out for you.
We need to know who they are.
Make them fight each other.
Well, I think we should have whatever that number is. If it's 100 weeks or something, like 500 months, whatever the number is, that should be we should make a line there. And if you get above that, we get you actually in the Chilluminati.
Yeah, we should send you a haunted
inductment ceremony.
Send you a weird haunted eBay gift just for being a part.
Yeah,
I like it.
A Dimmick box. Give him a Dimmick box.
Yeah,
we did an episode on that too. We've talked about it.
This $8 haunted piano, something like we just want to send it to you. Welcome, you're part of it now.
You get a Polaroid of the Annabelle doll from the Conjuring house. Or
yes,
you get a production still of the Annabelle doll prop from the film.
You get a strand of James Wan's hair.
Yeah, it's not very long.
Yeah,
might get lost in the mail. I guess, Nick, now we can say welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thanks.
I gotta ask, as I ask all guests, where on the believer spectrum do you lie? Are you on the heavy skeptic side? Like, I don't know, not like me personally, but like if I were to be the believer, me, or are you heavily a skeptic?
I mean, it depends on the subject matter. I don't believe in ghosts. I think it's bullshit. I don't believe in Bigfoot, because if there was a Bigfoot, we would have found them by now. Like, it's just ridiculous. Aliens, it's naive of us to believe that we're the only intelligent life in the entire universe. That's just stupid. The universe is infinite. It's gigantic. Of course there's intelligent life. Have they been here? I really don't think so. I feel like we're a blip. If they're a blip on our radar, then they're a blip on ours, So, like, yeah. But
it's too big. It's just too big.
It's too big. It's way too big. Like, no matter how smart they are with their infinite, technology, why would they come here? Like,
I don't even see.
All we do is produce methane gas. Yeah. Like, that's all we do.
It's for the Orgone energy.
It's for the Orgone energy too. Let me tell you.
Yeah, we make bad movies and fart. Like, that's our thing.
How dare you?
Well, you brought up Uwe Boll, so that's what.
Hitman was a work of art as well. All right.
Wait, which one?
I didn't see any of them, so I don't know. I was just swinging.
I have to say, plot wise, Hitman Agent 47, the second one, plot wise, garbage. But they totally nail the whole Hitman-ness of it, where he like creatively kills people. Like,
at least they got like one of the most important.
Yeah, never thought to even check it out. Yeah.
Well, you brought us a topic, as all our guests do on this time, and the past couple of weeks we actually talked about the lost city of Atlantis, all of its bizarre origins, and kind of into this wooey kind of weird place.
Cool.
And so after a couple of weeks lost in the world of the weird, and having planned on doing a true crime next series,
what is this going to be? What is this about to be?
No, don't worry about it. So the true crime being the next
I'm always worried.
Don't be worried about it, all right? Have I steered you wrong? Have I personally, Mathis, Mike, however you want to call me, have I steered you wrong yet?
You?
Never.
I'm glad you had to specify you personally. Because if you were about to say this podcast, I would have been like,
everyone on the show is a straight shooter. What are you talking about? This show's got a sterling reputation. Nobody's ever done anything wrong on here. Never. No. Every question raised, answered. That's the thing that they like us for. That's why they go to the Patreon. Every question raised, answered. Satisfied.
Every question raised,
I don't think you've been on the Reddit.
I've heard about it.
I don't think you've gone to the Reddit.
There are comments.
There are only a couple.
So many questions. So many.
Okay, can I just say then, in my defense, that somebody actually fucking went to the fucking green stone display in the fucking Tudor Museum today? They posted a picture of it, and it's really there, and it's the knife and a green stone.
Here's the Here's the question.
They're like, this is what it would have looked like.
What does it have to do with the house? Did they give us an answer on the house?
I will give you an answer on the house when you're least expecting it.
Is this going to be that episode where, like, out of nowhere you're like, and then the house?
I want you to think that every episode is going to be that episode. Here's my answer officially. No.
I hate you so much.
All right. Well, you got to let me guide you, Jesse, because, well, like I said, the next big series I was going to do is going to be a big true crime case, a rather famous name in the true crime world. And to kind of bridge that gap, fate would have it that Nick here would bring us a topic that seems on its surface to be a pretty straightforward true crime mystery, but ends up being a bridge between the real and the strange, dare I even say. Alien?
What?
A case that I've called myself To Mom Should Too, Double Homicide, which I really like as a...
You add the subtitle to it?
To Mom Should Too?
I like that.
Yeah, right. To Mom Should Too, Double Homicide.
There's about to actually be a To Mom Should Too, because they exhumed that dude.
They took his corpse out.
Double homicide us?
At least two of us are done after this one.
All right, that's the last episode. Chilluminati, thanks for listening, everybody. We're
done. We're done, dude.
What is happening?
First glance, don't worry, Jesse. It's all going to pay out, just like Atlantis.
It's all going to pay out like Atlantis?
Yeah.
Ooh, it paid out in droves. Patreon.com/Chilluminati pod.
Upon first glance, there's a lot of similarities between this case and the To Mom Should case. The mysterious discovery of someone far from where they should be, strange messages and items scattered around the area, and no physical evidence of any struggle, wrongdoing, or foul play. only the hints of something greater and maybe something not of this world. This case, ladies and gentlemen, is simply known as the lead masks case. Thanks to Joybird for sponsoring this episode. We all know the importance of making our own home, well, our own home. Your home should show off what makes you, you. Joybird's selection of customizable furniture and modern home decor lets you bring your unique style into your space. Joybird offers modern, customizable furniture for every space, available in a variety of vibrant, durable fabric options. And Joybird's Labor Day sale is finally here, so you can take advantage of their biggest savings of the season. Starting August 27th, visit joybird.com/chill to check out those savings. And ordering furniture online has never been easier or more fun. Choose from over 18,000 customization options or browse curated collections to find the perfect piece for your one-of-a-kind style. And Joybird is committed to creating quality furniture in a more sustainable future. Each piece is made with incredible care using responsibly sourced materials free of harmful chemicals. Through partnerships with groups like One Tree Planted, Joybird is helping conserve and restore Earth's most precious natural resources. Joybird stands by its quality and craftsmanship. If it's not everything you hope for, send it back with their 90-day return policy. Create a space that brings you joy with Joybird. Visit joybird.com/chill and get 35% off of your purchase. That's 35% off at joybird.com/chill. Now, out of everybody here, other than obviously Nick, I imagine Alex might be the only one who may have heard of this case.
Yeah, here's the thing. I have heard of this case, and I know only the like bare bones, like basic sort of like why it's crazy. Like it makes a lot of lists, and people actually suggest it to me to do all the time as an episode because it's a pretty
it is an Alexy episode.
Yeah, it's a pretty wacky one, but it's not wacky because it's like stupid. It's just wacky because it's like a very shocking scenario. So I'm very interested to hear some details about this.
Yep. Well, before we get too deep, then I want to acknowledge the sources I used for this episode, which ultimately surmises to a bunch of websites like Anomaly Info, Skeptoid, a few Medium articles, and the March 1967 issue of the Flying Saucer Review. Mwah, what a great issue of that magazine.
My brother just got me like 4 UFO magazines from the 60s. I might have that one.
Oh, you might have that one. That'd be great if you did. Beyond those handful of resources...
they're like zines, you know what I mean? They have like a very handmade quality.
Yeah, very much so. Beyond those handful of sources and obviously a bunch of internet sleuths on websites like Reddit, we don't actually have a lot of direct information on this mysterious case, and this is for 2 big reasons. One, it happened way back in 1966, and it happened in Brazil. Any and all firsthand sources, articles, or information that I'd want to get my hands on that might help crack further into the details of this one are A, in a language I don't understand, or B, simply lost to time. But there's still enough here that we can take a reasonably take a look at the events that likely transpired and piece together a few possible scenarios that caused the mysterious deaths. There are 2 big factors that separate this from its cousin, the other cousin mystery Tamam Shud. First and biggest is that there wasn't just one body, there were 2. And the second is that this comes off as almost a mirror version of Tamam Shud. While in Tamam Shud, we had a briefcase, objects, clothes to go on, but no identity. In the lead mask case, we have shockingly little physical evidence as to what actually happened, but do know who the 2 men were that ended up passing away. And you can likely figure out what one of those items that they had nearby simply by the name of this particular mystery, obviously.
A briefcase. So,
yes, correct. You got it. Bingo.
A small passage from a book that says the lead masks on it.
It's the Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, on August 17th, 1966, 2 men by the names of Miguel Jose Viana and Manuel Pereira de Cruz, who lived in Campos dos Goitacazes. That's so hard. It is, in Brazil, told their families that they were heading out to gather work supplies. Both of them were electronic technicians and known and liked rather well in their small town. Now, from what I could research, it seemed as though, at least from the outside, everything within their families and daily lives was rather normal. They had young families, wives, children, and a steady job. And it wouldn't have been out of the ordinary for the 2 men to need to go out and purchase supplies for the job on any given day. However, on this particular day, something else was going on. Both Miguel and Manuel met up shortly after leaving their homes. And from what evidence could be pieced together, we know that they boarded a bus heading to Niterói, Brazil, and arrived there at 2:30 p.m. For reference, that's about 170 miles, 170 mile long bus ride from their hometown.
Jesus.
It's a huge distance. From there, we can confirm only two more things. They both purchased identical waterproof coats, and then they bought a single bottle of water that was purchased from a local bar shortly after they arrived.
Like from between the two of them, they only got one bottle of water?
Yep, they only purchased a single bottle of water, but they were seen together.
Because that bus ticket must have been fucking expensive, man.
I can imagine.
We can only
Especially
afford one bottle. Is that what it? Like, okay.
They both purchased, beyond those certain purchases, from there, they actually wouldn't be seen for 3 more days until, and we're going to immediately get into a clarification. There are lots of conflicting sources on what happens from this point on. The general consensus is a boy that was flying his kite or chasing his kite actually noticed a terrible smell coming from the hill nearby. And he went over to check it out, and he saw the 2 corpses of 2 men that had been laying in the grass. However, there's another interview that I came across that said that the boy saw those men 4 days prior on the same hill sitting there quietly together. So when he saw them a second time, he thought they were just lying down. Which particular tale is true because they're coming from 2 different media sources, we don't know.
Wait, sorry to interrupt. So wait, he saw them before their deaths sitting there. And then he saw them 4 days later lying down and was like, oh, these guys have just been chilling here for 4 straight days.
Yeah, well, he came back. So the story, he saw them, came back 2 days later, thought they were like laying down, ignored it, came back again another day or 2 later. Then there was a smell, saw them, they were still there, went and got police.
Realized, those guys weren't just chilling.
I was about to call the kids stupid. Like, oh yeah, they've just been hanging out for 3 days straight. Normal, just super normal. Chilling. Yeah, chilling. 2 dudes hanging out on a hill, they haven't moved in days. Totally normal. Yeah, but no, that makes more sense.
Piecing together a kind of straightforward series of events from this point forward, especially with different things coming together and different people. Yeah, so
we're still trying to piece together the events that got us to this point.
I've been watching Jesse's face this whole time. He's just like sitting there, like, what?
So those are the only physical facts that we have pure evidence for that we know what happened.
So just to reiterate,
please, yes,
they get on this bus. They make one stop. They buy coats, raincoats, you said?
2 identical water jackets. Yeah, waterproof coats, raincoats.
And then one bottle
at
of
a local
water.
bar, 1 bottle of water.
Now, why do they buy the raincoats?
Why are they wearing lead masks?
Great question.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. So we're going to get now into the real details of what was found. On Saturday, August 20th, 1966, both of the men's bodies had been discovered. The police in Niterói, I think that's how you say it, a town less than 5 miles from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, had been informed that the Morro de Vintum, a hill nearby, had a powerful and unpleasant odor coming from it. And upon investigation, they found the bodies of 2 men lying in the foliage of the hill, decomposing. Both men were dressed neatly in suits, and both were wearing raincoats. And each man had an odd lead eye mask lying on the ground next to their heads.
What does that mean? Lead eye mask?
Like a sleeping mask made out of lead.
Oh.
Like you put it over their eyes. Like, look it up. Look up the lead. You can see pictures of it. You can literally see pictures.
I was thinking of like Peacekeeper's mask. You know,
no,
no, it's more like just for their, like you going to sleep, you need a night mask, you place it on there.
It has the vibe of like, you know, the bib that you put on when you go to the dentist or the doctor to get an x-ray. It has like that type of vibe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What year
I'm looking
at
images right now, and it's like a classic 1930s like bank robber mask, except without the eye holes cut out.
No eye holes.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's just made of lead.
Yeah, this was in the 60s.
Okay.
1966, I think, right?
Yeah.
So, what was found continues. Each man had some money on them. One man had 4,000 CR, which is just the currency in his pocket, and the other had 157,000 CR on him.
They only
in a
bought. They
plastic
can only
bag.
afford one bottle of water.
Maybe they only needed one.
So here's another
stingy,
interesting mystery that goes. Here's another interesting mystery that goes along with it. It's purported that they had actually taken out $4 million. We don't know where any of the other money went.
What was
they simply
what's
bought
the exchange rate back then?
Ooh,
with,
good. I don't. It's not something I even thought to look up. I
You
have
said they
no
were
idea.
they were electricians, right?
Yeah, they were electricians back then. This is 1966. Brazil money.
I mean,
look it up.
the only exchange rate where millions means very little is yen, right? So
Yeah.
that's still gotta be a lot of money.
I mean,
I would imagine.
what
at
year
least
was this
a few
again?
thousand.
1960 something?
1966. 66.
The exchange, so inflation was crazy in the 60s. So I have no idea. It would be way warped compared to it is now, for sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I can only imagine like pesos, but that's Mexico and not.
Is this real?
Brazil, South America?
Capital C, lowercase r. I don't know what that stands for.
Cruzeros? Cruise?
Yeah, that's
cruise
probably
something?
what it is.
Something.
Either way, they had taken out a good chunk, even if it wasn't, didn't equate to millions. It definitely equated to multiple
It's still gotta be
thousands.
a lot of
And
money.
a ton of it is missing. When especially all we know they bought was the raincoats and the water bottle.
CR?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know what that is.
you can just look at Brazilian money. Maybe it'll just come up from
Give me
that.
feedback.
It definitely is cruise something. Cruzeros, Cruzeros.
I thought Brazilian money was called the
Cruzeros?
real.
It might have
it
changed. I mean,
That's possible.
Yeah,
we only got
Regardless.
the euro like 25 years ago, something like that, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, it's Cruzeiros. Not sure how you say that, but that's what it is.
there you go. Either way, there was other things found with them on top of the money. Bunch of money is missing. Though. We don't know anything about it. Some notes were actually found with the bodies. Many of the notes were identifiable as electrical formula, but two were very, very strange. The first said, quote, Sunday, 1 capsule after lunch. Wednesday, 1 capsule at bedtime. The second note said, be at the place arranged at 1600 hours and 1630. Take capsules at 1830. After feeling effects, protect half the face with lead masks. Await the agreed signal. And those are the only notes that were found with them.
Like, what the fuck does that mean, dude?
It's like, this is what it's like going along on one of your journeys, Alex.
He asked me for a banger, and
he delivered.
I had a banger just sitting in my back pocket.
So obviously, after the police came and the bodies were inspected, the bodies were then removed from the hill and an autopsy proceeded as their identities and activities were investigated. The men were identified, as I said, as Miguel and Manuel, both from the town of Campos, 170 miles away, where the town regarded them highly, and both were described as electronics enthusiasts. The police fairly quickly determined when and how the men reached the hill, but the information didn't really answer any important questions. Vienna and Cruz had last been seen by their families on Wednesday, August 17th, when they had boarded a bus at 9 a.m. They said they were headed to Sao Paulo, which is 430 miles away, to buy electronic equipment and a car. And they were carrying cash. Here we go. And as I was saying earlier, they were carrying cash of over $3 million.
So that could buy a car for sure.
That would definitely buy them a car.
Well, if they had a car, why'd they take the bus?
Well, they were going to buy a car, right?
a car. They were going to buy a car. They were taking a bus, but that was still a lie. They weren't. So we still don't know where that money went. The money just disappeared. The bus then arrived at Niterói around 2 p.m. and the men got off. Because it was raining, the two bought raincoats for around $9,400. So that gives you, I guess, an idea of like how valuable the money was.
Yeah. A raincoat
Then they
can't
went
be more than like $15, right?
Yeah,
Something like
that's what
that.
I'm thinking. So then they went to a bar, purchased the bottle of mineral water, and kept the receipt because the receipt was found in their bodies so they could get back the refund on the empty bottle later. Around 3:15 p.m., they set off up the Morro de Vintum on foot, which is the hill that they were found on. Around 5 p.m., a boy saw the two men sitting at point high up on the hill. So this is the other side of the story where a boy sees them the first time around. They're up there still alive. On the following day, the 18th, the same boy saw the two men in the same place on the hill, but lying down this time. 2 days later, on August 20th, the same boy was hunting birds around the foot of the hill and ran across the foul odor. and it was his notice of the odor that eventually ended up bringing in the authorities. Both Vienna and Cruz had started to decompose by the time of the discovery and autopsy, but despite this, it was determined that there were no signs of violence or evidence of burning, and no indication of poisons in their organs. It was generally assumed they both had cardiac failures, but there was no explanation put forth for this.
Which they did a toxicology report?
So, and here's another point that we actually have two differing sources on. In one source, it says their body was too decomposed and they couldn't do a toxicology report on the bodies. And then another said they did do a toxicology report and found nothing. I have no way of verifying which one of those is true, unfortunately. There's two varying ones.
Just because I had to do this for my own sanity. In 1966, first off, Alex is totally right. The Cruzeiro, whatever it is, no longer exists. It's a currency that does not exist anymore. But in 1966, according to shout out to govinfo.gov, where they literally have an old document from March 31st, 1966, Department of Treasury, where it lists every single exchange rate. I love the internet. And it is basically 3 million BRCs or whatever they are. BCRs is $1,363 roughly. So that's you could get like a used car, but this is 1996. This is 1966. You could have got like
$1,400. A shit ton of money to be carrying around in 1966.
It's a huge amount of money.
That's a lot.
Yep.
Like I wouldn't carry that amount now at all ever.
Right.
Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah. No.
So
So in terms of
the only reason I brought that up is because like Mike did a great deep dive on this because I didn't know a lot of those details, but just like the money, the one thing I did think when I first like read about this case was like, there's more people involved. There has to be. Like they got the notes. It seems like it's a cult type thing, but like these two dudes who are electricians. Like electricians don't make shit now. Like why would they make that much money back then?
It's almost 12 G's in American dollars today.
Yeah. So like why would they have that money just and they're being so conservatively like spending it.
Like in my mind,
one bottle of mineral water.
In my mind, the only thing it sounds like it sounds like they're gonna like trip out, right? And like maybe they think they're gonna need to protect their eyes, right? But even if that's what they're doing. Right. Even if that's
someone who's done hallucinogens several times, I don't think there's a way you can make acid that gives you a fucking heart attack. Like
I just mean what? But after you take the acid, what do you need fucking $12,000 for? You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like I don't understand that unless they had to buy the drugs with that money. And then that's their change.
It would not have been that expensive.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the drug is. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know of any drug that you need to wear a lead mask once you take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unless it's some like holistic new age,
chakra cleansing lead mask.
Yeah.
It just sounds so like Mesoamerican ceremonial, like tripping on a hill type shit.
It does. It's less like it's like both like the Halley Bopp comet, like suicide cult, and also what you just said, like where it's got some sort of like spiritualistic like angle to it. Yeah, it's really weird.
Very funky. Jesse, I'm sorry. Were you about to say something?
I'm just looking at car prices. I'm just mesmerized by like what their vibe was because.
How much was a Datsun back in 1966? Go
well, so in 66, the things that I'm finding is it's like what I'm learning first off is that name brand always is adding dollars. So like really funny is the fact that like if it's 1963 and you want, for example, like a Ford Fairlane from 1960, that's $58,000 still. Crazy.
Good damn.
But what?
I know. They have like BMW, Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Roadster. That's used $50,000.
It's probably because they're made of fucking straight up metal.
Yeah, bro.
But if you're looking at like if it's 1966 and you want to get a Ford 2-door, it's $3,000 American dollars. So they definitely could get a Pinto or whatever in Brazil for $1,300 easy.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So I mean,
now
the story
wonder
checks
what the
out.
actual money went to, though. Like, where did the actual money go, though? Because they didn't buy a car.
When they found the bodies, was the money not there?
Only the leftover money. One was carrying $4,000, and somebody else was carrying $156,000.
So they didn't buy the car, or like
they never even went to. They never even were going to the place they told them.
Okay, well, no, I was like,
the money went somewhere.
I know that was like a lie. Like they told their families they were going to do this, and then they went.
Yeah, that's what they were told. They told their families they were going to get a car and get and work supplies away, but they didn't even get that far.
I was thinking the car could have been not for them. They could have bought the car for.
That's very possible.
Third party.
It's possible, yeah.
So it's
like a Paul scenario where they're like taking care of an alien.
Wait, so the last time they were seen was getting like water
at a bus station.
They didn't get back on the bus.
Nope. And they went to a nearby hill.
They walked, and the hill was nearby the bus station.
That's it. They stopped there and they died there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's like, if you're like, you don't want people to know where you're going, you like buy a train ticket to one place, you get off at another place kind of deal.
Yeah, you get off like halfway through and then jump on another train or something. But yeah.
We'll move forward.
Why that hill though?
Yeah, well, there's some theories. We'll get there. Okay. We'll eventually get there. Thank you to Stamps.com for sponsoring this episode. And yeah, a lot of bad things came with quarantine over the past couple of years, right? Staying at home more, having to order out more, and the general down of just being stuck at home. But there is something positive that came from it. Maybe even a couple things. One, I saved a lot more money by not going out nearly as much. And two, I stopped going to the places I hated going and I found ways around them. And one of that is the post office. Are you still going to the post office? Still paying full price for postage? Well, thanks to Stamps.com, you don't have to anymore. Mail and ship anytime, anywhere, right from your computer. You can send letters, packages, and pay a lot less than you used to, with discounted rates from USPS, the UPS, and more. Stamps.com brings the services of the US Postal Service and the UPS right to your computer. It's a must-have for any business. Whether you're a small office sending invoices, a side hustle Etsy shop shipping out orders, or just navigating this hybrid work life, Stamps.com can handle it all with ease. No wonder over 1 million businesses have chosen Stamps.com for their mailing and shipping. There's no risk, and with our promo code CHILL, you get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone in the top of the homepage and type CHILL. That's Stamps.com, promo code CHILL. Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again. But anyway, yeah, so leaving off where we left off was the idea that, again, the autopsies, varying reports. One said toxicology got done. One has said it didn't get done. There's no way for us to know. Regardless, it seemed likely that the men died sometime on the night of August 17th. And nothing in the information police have found indicated the men expected that they were going to die.
Time out. Whoa. You left out a key detail that I don't think our listeners are aware of. You said they had lead masks, right?
Yes.
And what we had discussed is like, oh, it's like a sleeping mask, like literally it is a piece of lead they cut to look like sunglasses. Not like something they bought at a store, like for sleeping. It is literally lead cut.
Oh, definitely looks homemade.
To fit on their eyeball. I'm looking at their photo right now.
No,
no, it looks like
Ray-Ban. Ray-Ban makes a lead sunglasses.
They look like Roy Orbison in the 80s.
This is literally just pieces of lead they cut and put on their eyes.
They
just looks like they did it by hand for themselves, and they just made it for themselves.
I thought you were like, oh yeah, they bought for sleeping masks for sleeping on the bus, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
No.
This is like even weirder. Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah. Well, did you hear the notes that were found in their body, or were you lost in car research at that point?
No, I definitely heard the notes about the capsules and and
the lead mask on their face.
Yeah,
and all that. All right, just making sure.
You know the ping pong ball thing? That's kind of what it feels like to me. The ping pong ball white noise thing. You ever seen that? You cut a ping pong ball in half and cover your tape it to your face.
People who do Ouija board do that all the time.
Well, this is like real. This actually just happens. This is like this is like a brain thing. This is like you cut off your sensory input from your eyes and then you play white noise and you don't have any input anymore and your body just starts creating stimuli from nothing.
They have those like sensory deprivation.
It's just like that, except you don't have to
Orbs
buy
or
like
whatever,
a, you know,
You can do it at
$3
home.
million
That's good to know.
Cruzeiro tank. You know what I mean?
Yep. So near the bodies, there was no evidence that indicated to the police that the men were planning on dying at this particular point in their venture. There was now
That's
also the
conjecture.
question of
why
where
the fuck would they know that?
because
Look
they
at this.
kept
The way they walked, I don't think they're planning on suiciding up here. No. This is
the only evidence that they provide and what I've been able to read is that because apparently they kept their receipt so that they could return the water bottle after, because there was some return policy where they get some of their money back if they brought back the empty bottle.
Glass bottle kind of deal.
how do you return a water bottle? Your spit's in it.
No, you do that. Like even, you know, it has a little.
Oh, you mean like
there's a
after,
sign-
but without actually using it? Okay.
No, not without actually
use
using
it,
it.
but I imagine
It's
it's like
just
recycled or
a
something. I don't
recycling
know.
Oh,
situation.
right, because they didn't have that back then. I forgot about that.
There's a Seinfeld episode about it.
They needed the weeping Native American man to tell them to recycle in the 80s.
Yeah, it's like 5 cents in most states and like 10 cents in one state. So
Right,
they get all
yeah.
their bottles and they try and take it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm ignorant. Never mind. Forget me.
You're good. Now there was also the question of where most of their money had disappeared to, as they had clearly not had a chance to buy the car or equipment in what was now known as their last actions. Further, the police determined that the odd note mentioning the lead masks did not match the handwriting samples for either of the victims. So and remember they have, they could get handwriting samples from their families, and they also had electronic formulae on them that was their handwriting as well.
That's the thing that makes it seem like it's not a suicide, because why would you, like, if you're about to just fucking die right now, why do you need to?
It seems like someone gave them instructions.
Well, I mean, why do you need to why do you need to protect yourself from something if you're going to die?
If you're going to die, why are you going to stop anything from blinding your eyes if that's like what they're worried about?
Yeah, I mean, we can get to that later, but it seems like they believed in something higher that was going to happen.
Well, it's like when people look
these
at like
steps to be taken beforehand.
It's like when people look at like, oh, they didn't empty their fridge. They just bought groceries. Like, why would they kill themselves? You know, it's like, it just has that vibe to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not going to get any simpler as we continue. Things will just get more complicated.
Oh, God.
On August 17th, the same day that Viana and Cruz had climbed up on that hill, a lady of high social status by the name of Senora Gracinda Barbosa Contino de Sousa, did my best.
Good.
That's a great name.
Bravo, dude.
Good name.
Thank you. From the Niterói neighborhood of Fonseca, this is on the 17th, claimed to have seen an unidentified flying object. Sousa had been driving that evening with 3 of her children when they all saw, quote, an oval-shaped object of an orangey color with a band of fire around its edges, end quote. So a typical tic-tac shaped UFO hanging over the top of a hill and, quote, sending out rays in all directions. Sousa stopped the car, and she and her children watched the object rise and fall vertically in the air for about 3 to 4 minutes. When she got home, she told her husband about the sighting, and he immediately jumped up and got into the car and drove back to see if he could see it, but noted that he ended up seeing nothing himself. But a few days later, he was telling the police about that sighting. The hill his wife had seen the object over was none other than Morro di Ventem, the hill the 2 bodies had been found on. Sousa's husband had managed to keep his wife from seeing any of the articles regarding the matter, presumably to keep her from freaking out. But when he saw the story in the papers himself, he felt the need to tell the police of the strange sighting over the hill on the same day the 2 men had arrived in town. Fonseca is about 13 and a half miles from the hill that his wife saw, so his wife would likely not have had any clue about the presence of both of the men earlier in the day. Reports of the sighting appeared in local papers on August 25th, along with some claims that further information from the Sousas was known and being kept secret by the police, which would, of course, be hard to prove true or false, but definitely sounded sensational and likely sold a lot of papers. So it's hard to know if there was actually any secrets being kept or if the media was simply trying to cash in on this kind of coincidence. After the report went public, the police had a number of other people called to confirm the sighting of the UFO. They had all been afraid to report such strange matters because the topic of UFOs was being discouraged by the government at the time. But the fact that someone of Senora Sousa's status was willing to come forward gave the rest of them the courage they needed, according to reports, of course. About the same time, another strange matter appeared in the newspapers, but only in a very simple form. It was stated that 4 years earlier in 1962, a TV technician named Hermes had been found dead on a hill called Morro de Cruzeiro near Neves, and he too was found with a lead mask. The Morro de Cruzeiros is about 176 miles from the Morro de Vintem, so a good distance from where the other two men were found dead.
I've never heard about this.
But
I've
it's
never
also
heard about this bit.
Yeah, it's not much known beyond this. This is the thing. But it's also 84 miles from Campos, the hometown of Viana and Cruz. However, there was no more actual information about this matter, and there's no indication the story was even double checked at the time.
Damn.
So
could be just totally fake.
We can't even verify that the story is real, more or less, only that it kind of popped up briefly.
And there's no, I'm going to assume there's no UFO evidence whatsoever, right?
I mean, none that I can get in English at the very least. Like,
I mean, I'm just,
even if it
I
wasn't
don't want to be that
English,
guy.
I don't believe anyone that says they've seen a UFO. Like,
I don't want to be that guy who.
I know. Do you
poo-poos
not
the
want to be
UFO.
Jesse, or do you relish in being that guy?
But it seems to me like UFO sightings happen all the time, and if you well, someone was also murdered around the same area where we saw a UFO, then you could be like the aliens murdered them. Right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, fair.
Just there's no connector to it except like this lady says she saw a thing and then no one else saw a thing. So it must be connected to the hill. I don't know.
Yeah.
I buy that.
Yeah.
what kind of
it's fair.
antidepressants was she on? Because that might be a factor.
Yeah. Listen, it was 1966. I'm not
So
sure
none.
what
The
was
answer's
available
none.
back then. Yeah. None.
Or cocaine
None.
was the answer.
Alcohol, cocaine.
Lots of coke.
However,
Lots.
things would soon get things would soon get serious, as police would soon arrest a friend of the two dead men, a man by the name of Alicio Gomez, quote, for making contradictory statements, end quote. Cruz's widow had told police that Gomez and her husband had an argument, which is likely why they went looking for him to start with. What they got wasn't what they wanted. Gomez claimed that both he and the dead men, Viana and Cruz, were members of a secret society of, quote, scientific spiritualists.
Yeah, this is where it's at. All right.
Who regularly attended seances, and that apparently almost all electronic specialists and enthusiasts in the area were scientific spiritualists as well. Gomez claimed that Viana and Cruz collaborated on many strange electronic experiments and hoped to communicate with beings on Mars. A further statement by Gomez, one confirmed by Cruz's father, was that he and Cruz had worked on an experiment in Cruz's garden that had violently exploded. So they were fucking around. Basically, it kind of reminds me of being a kid and mixing things together in the tub and making a potion, except you're an adult and now you're trying to make a thing that communicates with another dimension and it has the potential to kill you.
I remember some story.
Yeah,
I remember
right.
some story that reminds me about Tesla. I don't know. I might have told it on here before. I don't even know if it's a real story, but it was just told to me one time that there was this crazy seismic activity radiating from Tesla's lab one time, and these cops came by to do a welfare check, and they opened the door, and he was in there come on, help me, it's going to blow, and they go in and try to tear apart some machine that was vibrating with some crazy frequency that was shaking the foundations of the building, and they had to shut it down. It has that vibe to me.
There's so many good Tesla stories. Yeah.
I hope that, is that a real story?
Remember that time that he made that machine that made hats, but he didn't know it was making hats, and they ended up in the woods.
He thought it was duplicating cats, but then it ended up making hats.
Right, but it was and then that guy bought it from him.
Yeah, I love that song he has where it's bam 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 bam.
And I got lost on the references. I don't know where we are
It's because it's a
anymore.
movie. It's because it's a movie, and you've never seen movies, and it's so sad.
It's directed by Christopher Brolin.
Okay, all right. I know his brother. Continuing on, Gomez, their friend, also talked about a strange incident that had occurred a few months prior on June 13th, 2 months before they would end up dying. On that day, Gomez and some others had been invited by Viana and Cruz to visit the beach at Atafona, 24 miles from their hometown. Just as Gomez arrived, a, quote, intensely luminous object came down from the sky to hover over the shore of the beach. It stayed there for 5 minutes, and then it began to rise. When there was a blinding flash and an explosion that shook buildings 15 kilometers away, the papers reported that inquiries, presumably by the police, turned up fishermen local to Atafona who claimed to have seen a flying saucer fall into the ocean. So they apparently had witnessed a flying saucer, a UFO, violently explode in the sky, shake buildings up to 15 kilometers away, and crash into the nearby waters. Newspapers added that the Brazilian Navy and Air Force intelligence were now interested in the matter of the mysterious deaths of Viana and Cruz. One paper, the O Cruzeiro, on September 16th, is said to have claimed the Navy had intercepted a strange set of messages on June 12th, the day before the Atafona explosion, transmitted by stations using identifications that didn't actually exist. No details of what the Navy heard were reported, just a general implication that they must be connected to the explosion that happened the following day. The same paper added 2 final details to the strange mystery. They claimed that the masks had been made in Vienna's workshop, where remnants of the process had been found, along with a book on, quote, scientific spiritualism, which mentioned masks, intense luminosity, and accompanying spirits. The newspaper then claimed Vienna had told his sister a day or two before the June 13th explosion that, quote, he would soon be carrying out an important mission, and that it was a secret she could tell no one.
Oh, man, that is just... It's like a Suda 51 game. It's like just nonsense.
It really is. It's a lot of it seems like paranoid people running into a couple of coincidences that end up leading them to their own death. The police later determined that Gomez, as well as other associates of Viana and Cruz, had been in Campos at the time that Viana and Cruz were climbing the the hill that they ended up dying on, the Morro de Vintum, and so were not directly involved in the death of the men. So at least his friends and wherever, they were clear of any murdering. They didn't actually kill him. For 11 months, there were no further public reports regarding the mysterious deaths. But in August of 1967, the police apparently said some very confusing things to 2 different newspapers. On August 19th, the newspaper Ultima Hora announced that the police were trying to find a car that had the registered... let me try that sentence one more time. Oh, we lost Nick.
Hello?
Oh, you're still there?
He was
okay,
offended.
The camera just died.
My video.
He was offended, and that's fair. I'm butchering this language. It's offending everybody. Try that again. On August 19th, the newspaper Ultima Hora announced that the police were trying to find a car they had the registration number for that they believed had transported the bodies of Viana and Cruz from Campos to the Morro de Vintum. So they believe somebody drove them to that hill. If they succeeded in finding the car, then the bodies were to be exhumed for further examination to determine if the 2 men died of violence, an overdose of, quote, chemicals which they were using to make...
Died of violence,
or, this is my favorite part, an overdose of chemicals which they were using to make extraterrestrial communications. Or if they had enacted a suicide pact. So in short, the police announcement said that the police had somehow either forgotten what they had determined before, or they simply no longer believed it was the case, which to some is very strange. On August 26th, the Ultima Hora announced that the bodies had indeed been exhumed and organs had been removed for examinations. The delegate of police, Sergio Rodriguez, claimed that, quote, important pieces of evidence were disregarded at the start of the inquiry, end quote, and that his team was now close to solving the case with expectations that they would have the guilty party in just a few days. On September 3rd, the newspaper Correio da Manhã stated that the detectives were planning to investigate spiritualist circles. It was now being asserted that Viana and Cruz had stopped at an electronics store before they stopped to buy mineral water, and that they likely met their murderer at the electronics store before they climbed the Morro de Vintum. The newspaper also stated that the men had climbed the hill on August 21st, 1966, which makes no sense because that's a day after the bodies had actually been discovered. So now the reports and the police and they're coming out a year later are completely starting to mess up the timeline, and now nobody's really sure if the information coming out from the police can be trusted anymore. So the question obviously is, did the police forget most of the previous investigation, including the date the bodies were found? Or were the newspapers trying to get sales by adding some new false details, kind of like before where they added some flair just to sell some more newspapers? We don't really know. We have no idea what the actual case or cause of the misinformation was. The case next resurfaced in newspapers on June 28, 1968. According to the Rio de Janeiro newspaper O Globo, police were now trying to find a foreign man with blonde hair seen talking to Viana and Cruz from a Jeep on the road before the two men climbed the hill. Additionally, hair samples of the two men were specifically tested for signs of poisoning by arsenic, mercury, barium, or thallium, none of which was found, killing that particular line of investigation. And then no more word on the matter for another 8 more months.
Where did they meet the guy with the hair?
On the road shortly after they bought their bottle of water. He was hanging out of a Jeep and he was seen talking to them.
And somebody just saw them?
Yeah, this is just an eyewitness account. So who fucking knows, how much it can. This is not only an eyewitness account over a year later. So it's just how trustworthy is it?
Why would you remember something so insignificant
that long later?
Yeah, that's a little...
Around February 23rd, 1969, a number of newspapers returned to the Morro de Vintam Hill mystery with claims that the case had been solved due to the confession of one Hamilton Bizani, an underworld figure, they called him, already serving a sentence of over 50 years in a Sao Paulo prison. According to reports, a female relative of Bizani had told police the jailbird had admitted to involvement with the Morro de Vintam mystery, so they questioned him. Bizani stated that he had been asked by 3 other well-known criminals of the area to assist in a crime. All 4 had gone to a spiritualist center in Niterói run by a woman they knew, and there the 4 men were introduced to Viana and Cruz. It was signaled to Bizani by the other 3 criminals that Viana and Cruz were the intended targets of the crime. During the seance, the criminals determined that Viana and Cruz were both away from home and carrying a lot of cash, mostly in a briefcase with them. After the seance, Bizani himself drove the whole party, including the woman from the center, to the foot of the Morro de Vintam. Here, Viana and Cruz were forced out of the car and into the thickets of the hill by everyone except Bizani, who stayed with the car. A half hour later, all but Viana and Cruz returned, and the criminals were holding the briefcase. They stated they had forced the 2 men to take poison at gunpoint. The party planned a time for the next day to split the money, but Bizani gave it a miss on the intuition that they might kill him too. So that's another confession, is that this was all a planned robbery, and the spiritualism was basically just a hoax to rob suckers of people who believed in it.
Just
and
getting
just to
them
find out if
super
these people,
isolated to meet up on a hill somewhere.
Getting them far away, using the seance to pull information as like how much money they might have. Is it worth really doing it? And then planning out and then just forcing them to take poison out in the hill.
It's kind of a scary genius plan if you think about it. Like,
yeah, if this is true.
Yeah.
Thanks to our longtime sponsor, Talkspace, for sponsoring this episode. And when you're in a low point, you might feel alone, but you have to know that over 50% of Americans struggle with their mental health. I very openly talk about my difficulties with my mental health and how proactive I am about trying to keep it under control and taken care of. We all need help sometimes, and asking for support when you need it is actually a sign of strength. Talkspace makes it really easy to match with a licensed therapist and schedule live video sessions, all from the comfort of your device. You can start messaging your therapist the same day as you sign up. Whether you're a parent, student, millennial, or just someone having a hard time, Talkspace can provide the support to help you feel better with a single message. Talkspace offers individual and couples therapy in addition to medication prescription services. Set goals with your therapist and they can help make sure that you're really progressing. Talkspace therapists help you develop tools to cope in difficult times. Start feeling better with a single message. Match with a licensed therapist when you go to Talkspace.com and get $100 off your first month with the promo code CHILL. That's $100 off when you use code CHILL at Talkspace.com. The newspaper reports then added that the police were looking to round up the 3 other criminals. And one press report claimed that the woman from the Spiritualist Center was already under arrest, all of which, once again, means a complete rewrite of what was known after the first investigation in 1966. Bizani's story was so strange that a bunch of Brazilian UFO enthusiasts and researchers immediately assumed it was false from the start and had been meant simply to demystify an unsolved case that had too much involvement with the paranormal matters of the Brazilian government's tastes, and so ended all the known public coverage of the strange Moro de Vintum case in the Brazilian press with this cover story. That's what UFO believers believe. This is all just a giant government cover-up for what actually happened.
Which was what? Like, yeah.
Yeah. I know it's different. It's difficult because a lot of this information is simply kind of brought together from three separate articles from the British magazine Flying Saucer Review, published in 1967, 68, and 71. And at some point in time, the original newspaper sources that need to be checked to be sure what was sent to and translated by the FSR. It's basically, it's all through translations of translations and what we have. And this is just kind of the story that's able to be pieced together. As far as that's been able to be researched, the claims in the account of a second body found with a lead mask in 1962, as well as the whole Atafina UFO incident, the giant explosion on June 13th, 1966, do not appear to have ever been researched and confirmed separately from the initial reports that were sent to the FSR. The oh my God, my mouth has given up on this word. Atafina incident, especially with an explosion supposedly felt miles away and witnesses on boats, would have to have been made an appearance in some newspapers and could either verify or completely explode one early strange claim attached to this whole mystery. But alas, we have nothing and no way to verify it, which to me lends credence to the fact that probably didn't happen, as an explosion with that much energy and like ramifications, I feel like would have been reported and we would be able to find an article somewhere.
That's such an internet thing too. Like, you go online and you go on like a Reddit and you read some like crazy story and it's like 14 people were killed and like a building was burned to the ground. And then you're like, this sounds so real. This sounds so believable. And you just Google like one thing that's like, there is no record of any of these murders or this building ever existing. And you're just like, okay.
It's like, thanks for, telling me all that. Now I just feel like my hopes are crushed.
I guess.
Yeah, really. Well, there's one little bit more to the story, and it has to do with a well-known UFO researcher by the name of Jacques Vallée. Did anybody here know who Jacques Vallée is?
Jacques Vallée?
Vallée. So I'm going to guess that's a no, and I'm the only one. All right. Don't matter. I'm not going to give you a TLDR of him now. He's just a very prominent figure in the UFO research world who tries to think of things scientifically and not necessarily fantastically. Regardless, in 1990, Jacques Vallée, who was a well-known author and spokesman of UFO topics even at that time, was releasing his 8th book on the subject titled Confrontation, A Scientist's Search for Alien Contact.
Okay, yeah, I think I recognize this guy's face.
Okay, yeah. I would expect Alex to at least somewhat know who he is. Vallée started this book with the Moro de Vintum case, explaining how he investigated it personally in April of 1980. He and his wife flew to Brazil and visited the hill. Along with his wife, Vallée climbed the hill with a local French teacher who volunteered to translate, a journalist, a photographer, and a detective who handled unsolved cases. Vallée was also accompanied by the first adult who had seen the bodies that August day in 1966 when a group of boys came running to the house. Quote, he had accompanied them to the police station at the foot of the hill where they described their grisly find to the officer in charge. Which would be a very important new witness to interview, except for one strange problem. Vallée never tells us this new witness's name. Vallée wrote that his unnamed tour guide led him to a spot on the hill where the ground was almost bare, even though it was surrounded by tall, leafy bushes. In fact, Vallée mentions the spot was bare of vegetation twice in the book, implying that to him, this might be significant. As Vallée told the story, the bodies had first been found by an 18-year-old, quote, boy who was searching for his kite with his friends. They alerted the unnamed man who was serving as Vallée's guide because he lived nearby. The unnamed man stated that the bodies did not stink when found and that predators and vultures had not touched them. Another separate conflicting interview about how the bodies were. Because again, interviews before were being told that it was decomposing, smelly, and that's what drew them over there.
I thought, all right, maybe you're just being specific about toxicology reports. I thought you said they didn't have time to examine the bodies.
No, what I said was they did an autopsy on the bodies. What we don't know is if they actually did a toxicology test on the bodies, because that's conflicting.
All right.
Yeah. Valet then reported that the skin of the two bodies, when found, were pink and showed signs of possible burns, but then asserted that decomposition, quote, had progressed to the point where such a finding was not significant, which doesn't seem to make too much sense. Clear evidence of burns that was still visible when the bodies were found would be important evidence. Decomposition would not change the fact if the burns were that obvious. Valet also states that the lead masks and notes were found lying by the bodies, along with some items that were never mentioned before. Quote, crushed piece of aluminized blue and white paper, some cellophane soaked in a chemical substance, and a handkerchief with the initials AMS. He does not mention any of these new items in the book again after this, though. And again, there's no way to verify that that's true, because what the police said was found was just the simple things that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Valet's description of the events around the deaths is equally odd. After briefly recapping who the two men were, during which he distinctly describes Vienna and Cruz as electronics technicians, a detail that is now very common in new reporting, he states how the men were traveling to Sao Paulo, stopped in Niterói, bought raincoats and mineral water, walked up the hill, and were last seen at 5 p.m. on the hill. But he doesn't mention who saw the men on the hill. By doing so, Valet skips all of the questions that were posed and talked about prior, and regarding the strange behavior of the boy who said he saw them multiple times over multiple days. So Valet's report in the end provides a bunch of contradictory information and supposedly reveals new physical evidence that was at the site that was never brought up by the police or the government when it was reported on initially. Who you can trust and who you can't is really kind of up to you, but I lean on the side of what evidence was presented by the police. Beyond that, we truly don't know much more about what happened here at this particular moment. What we do know is that spiritualist cults were also very common back then and still might even be according to some reports.
Oh, yeah.
There's like 4 documentaries a year about one.
Yeah.
Just go on Netflix, look at the documentary section.
It's like half of them are about fucking
Shut your
cults.
eyes and just click around. You'll find one. Like,
yeah, pretty much. So the idea is like they very likely belong to one. And so one of two things in my mind happened. Either this spiritualist cult ended up being, they thought they were going to take pills and see aliens and be a part of this amazing experience. Or B, they really did go to somebody, the criminal like a hideaway, had a seance and essentially got, murdered and robbed for being, not in the right place at the right time and just being part of a giant scam. Which of those is true? Which is the reality of this particular mystery? I can only give you a big shrug because we won't know.
No, we're gonna solve it today. We're gonna solve this mystery.
Now,
the answer lies in a dilapidated house somewhere.
It all goes back to whatever car they were buying.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Raparez.
Get back into the math of the exchange rate. Let's go.
I mean, that's it. That's the mystery.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, right? We gotta believe that they believed they were doing something interesting. They were like, they had some sort of mission that they were on together that was other than what they told people they were doing.
That the one fact that is a fact is they were lying to their loved ones about what they were doing. That over the
and where they were going,
whatever, like 2 days or whatever.
And it seemed like they were buying into some sort of pill, lead mask wearing situation.
The question is whether or not that actually had to do with their death or not, because if the crime story is to be believed, then the notes that were found with them and the lead masks that were found with them don't really have anything to do with them being scammed and robbed.
Yeah, it's really elaborate. I don't know.
Well, maybe they didn't know till they got fucking murdered. You know what I mean? Like they might have not known they were.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe, it could have been someone had some dirt on both of them and was like, "You're gonna get this amount of money and take a bus to this location and then give it to me, or else, your families know this secret about." I don't know.
I'm gonna say these guys seem pretty gullible. Based on the history of their we're trying to contact Mars, right? And blowing stuff up, and there's evidence apparently that they were in a thing doing stuff. So you have to imagine if someone was like, something's happening and I need your help. Bring me $3 million and we can make this. I can get you to the moon. Whatever.
We tell our families, pretend you're buying a car.
And then and then they just got robbed. I can see that too. Or
100%.
the aliens needed some cash because they were low and they needed gas.
Came down on their big old Tic Tac and they're like, guess what, dude? Like, we need gas money, so get on that hill.
Yeah,
we need a lot of gas,
anything
dude.
for
It's crazy.
you, Snorblacks. And he's like, thanks, friends. And he's like,
Snorblacks.
peace out.
Mike, is there info on how close they were as friends? Like,
No, I mean, I nothing that I could find that really talked about the two's relationship with each other. I can only imagine they must have been at least decent friends.
Other than they got up to hijinks.
They were both.
I don't even know where they worked or if they were independent technicians that were on call kind of thing or contractors. Yeah. No idea. That never really is part of a lot of the information.
I feel like that would close a lot of doors if we knew how connected they were before this happened.
It's a fascinating, really is a fascinating case that did remind me of To Mom Should at the end, and it was just it's a really cool mystery.
The lady that was the body that was found,
the man at the beach that was found without any identity. Yeah.
There's another one of those, which is a lady that no one could identify that was dead on a beach somewhere. Yep.
Similar crazy shit.
Happens a lot, man. We gotta get a task force together. Stop leaving, Jane Doe's and John Doe's dead places, please.
I mean, that's got to exist.
Yeah.
That's a good procedural TV show. Just one police force that's their entire thing is we got another random body on a beach somewhere and no one knows anything about it. Let's go.
To Mom Should.
Yeah, you could do a lot of fun
series.
stuff with that. Yeah,
I hate.
But thank you guys so much for listening. Yeah, no, because it never ends, man. It never ends. We're gonna go off and do a mini-sode, and Nick is gonna join us over that way as well. But Nick, where can people find you if they want more of your delicious voice in their ears?
I'm at Diction on Twitter and Twitch, and then Eat My Diction 1 on YouTube, which is completely different, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah, we have faith in our Chilluminati to figure things out.
They're a clever bunch, them.
They are a clever bunch. So head over to patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod. We're going to be doing a mini-sode over there right now. If you haven't yet, please buy tickets for our live show. There's not that many seats left. It's a couple months away. Go to Chilluminatipod.com and go buy your tickets for that. And last thing to shill, we have new merch over at theYeti.com.
Good merch too. It's really cool.
We got a new glow in the dark pin, and we got a new t-shirt based on I forgot the name of it. The Flatwoods Monster. Yeah. The Flatwoods Monster. So please go check that out. That t-shirt is super cool. And we've got a really neat Halloween t-shirt coming up for October after that, which I can't spoil, but I want to.
Yeah.
Other than that,
really
that's
cool
it for
idea.
us. Yeah, I love it, man. It's going to be sick. That's it for us. We'll see you guys next week. And for all our patrons, we'll see you in just a few minutes.
Ooh,
goodbye.
Bye. Later.
Bye.
Anyway, me and my wife were sitting outside indulging on our porch one night, enjoying ourselves. I needed to go to the bathroom, so I stepped back inside, and after a few moments, I hear my wife go, "Holy shit, get out here." So I quickly dash back outside, and she's looking up at the sky in awe. I look up too, and there's a perfect line of dozen lights traveling across the sky.